Okay. I keep going in and out here on this feed. I'm not sure why. So those of you who are tuning in on other platforms, you probably didn't hear about, I don't know, a minute of dialogue, but it's back up and running again. Okay. So uh, let's go to the article. Key points. Remaining in contact with an ex-partner can prolong psychological pain after relationship ends. Psychological pain. You wake up in the middle of the night thinking about that person. You wake up in the middle of the night desiring for that person to be with you. You're wondering what they're doing with the new partner that they're with. You have dreams about them. You smell scents that remind you of them. You see things that remind you of them. You hear songs, you see movies, so on and so forth about that person. See, grief in death is the same in life. There's a grief process, there's a grieving process. And regardless of whether it's life or death, it is still the same process. So you grieve that loss because this person you were with every day. This is a person who you broke bread with all the time, who you went to family events with all the time, who you woke up to in the morning. So when they're no longer there, you go through a grieving process, right? There's the stage of anger that you go through. Then you go through the stage of yeah, I'm not really sure what's happening. So today's show is like just been chaotic on my StreamYard platform, but it's still right here. Yeah, on Instagram. That's why you always got to keep one handy. It's on a whole different network, right? And this is sometimes what happens when you have too many things on the network. You have, the phones, the pads, the tablets, everything. Everybody's got everything on, on the same network, and you have to establish a separate network. So that's just what the convenience of these things often present to you. So you keep it moving. Um, the psychological pain, right? You cry because they're not there. You get angry at others. You lash out at other people around you. You lash out at your own life. You lash out at your own life. You impose pain upon yourself, right? And then you impose suffering upon yourself. So you're going to go through the pain when you really cared, legitimately cared about a person. You're going to have some pain. But suffering is what you impose upon yourself, especially when you continue to dibble and dabble and you haven't, established a boundary of that relationship. Skills from dialectical behavior therapy can help you regulate and tolerate breakup related emotions. See, when you start talking about DBT, you start talking about very techniques, very skills you need to learn to manage those emotions. Like when you're with someone else and all of a sudden you change up. The representative leaves and a real person shows up right during dinner when you're out dating someone else. You know, Hakeem ain't do that. What are you doing? Ew, whoa, hey, no. Oh, what? What do you mean we have a limitation on spending? What? Huh? And I'm not talking about somebody's even being extravagant in spending. Like, well, no, you want. Oh, well, the limit is $20. Not one glass of juice limit. So you probably want to get some water, a wedge of lemon, and have some sugar package on the table. Since you like sweet drink, you can go ahead and make yourself some lemonade. So when you get done that Coke, you're not going to get a refill. You can get a refill of water, right? Or vice versa. Somebody else begins to give you something else, that is something you've never had before, right? But DBT is another therapy that can be used, and you can use that yourself. All you have to do is start learning the skills. Counseling is important. especially if you really want to change and get up out of this funk. But you can go online and learn some self-help methods of being able to move away from certain behaviors. People take positive affirmations and post them all over the house. That's great. You tell yourself those things, but if you're not recognizing why you're in the condition you're in, it's not going to matter. So you have work to do, right? So let's go into the article. Almost everyone has experienced pain related to the end of a relationship. The weeks following a breakup, in particular, can be emotionally fraught. Research suggests that it is common to experience a period of greater emotional volatility, higher stress, and lower satisfaction within months of a partnership ending. Right? So it can go on for days, weeks, months, and sometimes years, sometimes decades. Sometimes decades, yeah. Just go on and on and on. Right? Because you have to go through the grieving process. You got to let yourself go through that process. Whether you broke up years ago, back to the article, or yesterday, there are plenty of reasons why the urge to get back in contact with an ex might arise. Maybe you feel lonely and would like the comfort of talking to someone who really knows you. Now, I'm not going to say I really agree with the who really knows you piece, because if this situation is happening and this person really knows you and you seeking comfort now, you were seeking comfort then. When did it become uncomfortable? At what point did it become uncomfortable? What happened for it to become uncomfortable? But now you're feeling you need that comfort and you calling the person who you say made you uncomfortable because of a behavior or behaviors. Back to the article. Maybe you're still trying to understand where things went wrong and have questions that are unanswered. Or maybe you are past the acutely painful period and are feeling a bit flirtatious. Yeah, you're horny. Let's call it what it is, flirtatious. Horny, right? You're getting that little feeling down below. So now you want to, it was good. Yeah, you hit it right. You look at those kind of things like that, and then you make a decision to continue typing that little message, dialing that number. You understand? Back to the article. Right? Regardless of why, it's worth pausing first to consider the potential blowback. There's consequences for this. And there's consequences for this. Yet you're willing to go in, pun intended. You're willing to go in. You know what the consequences are. As soon as it's over, you're laying back. This was a mistake. It was good, but it was a mistake. I gotta go. Now you'd hurt. You'd imposed hurt again, right? You impose hurt upon yourself because now you're guilt ridden, right? You know that person really cares for you. You know that, but it didn't matter. Once that momentum got going, it didn't matter. Right? Now the other person is hurt because they feel like they're used. They're feeling like, they accepted the invitation because, again, they had some unanswered questions. Maybe it's some things within them that they think, can rekindle and start over again. You can't start over. It's no such. Let me say this to you. People often say that we can start over. We can try this from the beginning. You can't. It didn't go away. It's still there. You start over for yourself, right? Within yourself, we're starting over. But what happened in the past is still within you. How are you starting over? The first time something happens that's familiar, the areas of discomfort, the areas of difficulty come right back. They haven't gone anywhere. Neither of you have gotten counseling. Neither of you have done work on those areas. Both of you just want it to go away so we can move forward. It was just this sticking point. And sex usually isn't the sticking point in relationships that have gone on for a period of time. Sex isn't the issue. The sex is fantastic, but everything else that comes along with that isn't. Isn't. You just had great sex. Woohoo! That's all. You didn't have everything else that comes that should come along with it, that you want to come along with it. And many times you want that to come along with it from the other person, but you're not giving the same thing. It's what you want. You have to want to give somebody the same exact thing. You have to practice to give the same exact thing. You don't have to match it stride for stride, but if that's what you want from the other person, first you have to learn how to give it. Some of you can't give it and don't understand why you can't give it. And instead of you looking at why you can't give it and learning why you can't give it and working on why you can't give to the other person what you expect for them, you keep expecting it from them. And when they don't give it, then you have an issue with it. You see how this goes? It all comes back full circle to you. To the article. Contact with an ex-partner can increase psychological distress. Right? Unfortunately, research indicates that staying in contact with an ex-partner ultimately prolongs pain. Right? So again, what I said, when the relationship ended, you were already in pain. You were already suffering in many cases if you just allowed things to keep going and going and going and going. You took yourself through a psychological roller coaster when you fell back and said, okay, well, I hope it's going to change. It looks like it's going to be different. I feel like it's a little different, but most of the times it's not different. It's not going to be different. And you know it's not going to be different. You're still hoping for something to change about this situation that you had control over from the beginning. But you decided to hang on. Yeah. So back to the article. In another study of young adults who had recently ended a romantic relationship, participants were asked to rate their emotions at random times over a 4-week period. Okay. On days when they were in contact with their exes, they reported experiencing higher levels of love, but also of sadness. You see the psychological distress here, right? And again, this whole love thing is confusing because what often happens with this thing about love, right, is it's a misinformation within yourself that you have made your reality, which is not grounded in any kind of reality. The reality of it is it doesn't work. So here you are, you're glad to see this person, you're happy to see this person, y'all sitting down, y'all, breaking bread, busting up, keying and everything like that. And then this sadness kicks in. I wish it would have worked. I wish why can't we? So this is that emotional roller coaster, right, that you go through. It's an emotional roller coaster that we go through. Self-imposed. Because you didn't have to go on this date. You didn't have to go hang out. Y'all can be in the same space. You glance over every now and then and you see the person and you have those feelings, but being with that person is not a good idea. And you know it's not a good idea. You know it. So let's look here at the strategies, because we have, what is it, five things that you need to consider before you do that DM, right? Before you make that call, before you respond to a post that they put on social media. Because a lot of times you do it the back door way too, oh, well, we still connected. I can respond to the post, right? But your response to the post is grounded in your conditioning, right, of that person. So you say kind things to them, right? They see it. They remember. They begin to think. Can this potentially happen again? Can it? Oh man, she looking good. He looking good. Seem to be doing some things different. Some of the things that I wish we had done, they seem to be in alignment with that. Maybe there's a chance that we can. You understand? So the strategies here. Back to the article. Whether you already know right here that a text is a bad idea, or you are still contemplating what to do. Here are 5 skills from the dialectical behavior therapy to use before you reach out or respond, to your former partner. And we were talking about DBT earlier, and I was telling you it's always a good idea to go to professional counseling, right? To get that foundation of understanding, because you can't keep going to you for the solution of a problem that resists within you that you don't have a full understanding or even conscious about, right? So a therapist guides you towards self-discovery, aids you in learning some things about yourself, your childhood trauma, different things that happen, to you in your life, that cause you to hold on to failure, right? Because failure is not a bad thing. It should be a motivating factor for you to know what doesn't work. That's what failure is. We've attached such a negative label to failure that we see failure as devastation. Failure is only understanding and learning what doesn't work. How many times do you think Michael Jordan stood at the free throw and shot that ball and missed? You think he started out at 87% from the line? No, absolutely not. Over and over and over again, he stood at that line, shot that ball, felt the weight of the ball, felt how to do the arch, how to move his arm up, the stance he needed to take, right? Over and over and over again. That's how that works. So, number 1 on the list, identify the emotion behind the urge to text your ex. Are you feeling lonely, anxious, sad, angry? Sometimes we do things on impulse that don't serve us in the long run because we want to make an unpleasant emotion go away as quickly as possible. That's how substance abuse comes into play as well. Yeah. So the human being wants to feel good all the time. No, none of us want to have bad feelings upon us. So if we can make that bad feeling, I'm not crying, my eyes just water. But if I was, I wouldn't tell you anyway. But no. Um, so we want to feel good. Sometimes the bad things for us are what we seek out to feel good. It's like backwards. But that's what we do. Whether it's eating, whether it's sex, whether it's substance use, misuse, abuse, whether it's a place, the mall, whatever it is, we know that this is only a replacement, something we're using to take away that bad feeling, that negative feeling. And we do that with other people. Back to the article. Once you have identified what you are feeling, practice sitting with that emotion for a few moments before reacting. So you've identified the urge. You got that little twinkle down below. It can't just be anybody. It's got to be Mike. Yeah, the magic Mike, dude. Yeah, it's got to be him. If I call up so and so, she don't, right? Because it's that feeling. It's that feeling that you get. You know the consequences, and we talked about earlier in the show. You know the consequences of this. But it doesn't matter because you think you can handle it. You think you can control it. I'm gonna just go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and roll out. Not seeing the value that you have put upon this situation, that you have put upon yourself and you have put upon the other person. You're not seeing that. What you're seeing is getting your needs met. And that person can meet that need. Back to the article. How does that emotion feel in your body? Now, we're not talking about getting the tingle down below. That's not an emotion, right? That's not an emotion. There's a thought that's stimulating that. You have this picture in your mind of that. What is the emotion behind it? Is it just about the sex? Or is it that you miss that person and what y'all had and what you thought you could have and what you still believe that we can possibly have only if they change? Not looking at it's you who needs to change, but looking at what's behind all of that. Thinking it through. It's a stop and think technique in therapy. Stop and think. Feel that emotion. Ride it out. What do you do to ride it out? And this is what DBT teaches you. When you start using dialectical behavior therapy, it teaches you to learn how to ride it out. It's a skill. It's going to go away, right? Go take a shower. Divert your thinking to something else. But when you don't do that, and you let that feeling, that need fester, and then your psyche starts kicking in, and you start envisioning the whole act within your mind, then you feed it. You feed the need. And you're right back on it again. Pun intended. Right? All emotions, here it is an article. All emotions eventually pass on their own. You don't actually have to do anything to make it go away. Do nothing. Doing nothing, writing it out, it's going to go away. Telephone ring. Ding. Okay. Hey, what's going on, dude? What's up, girl? Hey, what's happening? Somebody else called. It's gone. Get off the phone. You didn't have the conversation. I didn't call today. The idea is not to call today. The idea, just like substance abuse, I'm not going to get high today. I'm not going to call him today. I'm not going to call her tomorrow. Don't worry about tomorrow. Deal with today. Right now, I'm not making that call. Right now, I'm not going to make that call. Sometimes the day is too long. They're the same thing, the same principles of addiction. It's addictive behaviors. It's things that you just do and you just do and you just do. And like I can drink a cup of coffee in the morning. I'm flowing. I can drink a cup of coffee at night, in the middle of the night, if I can't sleep, be out. I was asked, like, so babe, why you drink coffee then in the morning? Habit. That's all it is, habit. I don't really get a boost from coffee. It's just habit. It's something that psychologically you convince yourself that it's really giving you that boost, but it really isn't, because you're going to move through. If you're committed to something, you're going to move through it, either or. If I get up in the morning to go to work and I don't have coffee, I am still going to be just as enthusiastic today as I was yesterday with a cup of coffee. And I'm doing it today without a cup of coffee. Right? If I wasn't thinking about you today, right? If I wasn't in my head about you today, then you're in my head the next day. That's what I'm going to deal with it. But if I'm sitting down right now thinking about, I should have called yesterday. I just saw a post on Facebook, and you kept it moving, but you still let it stay here. You moved it from here to here, right? And you still pondered the thought. So you're setting yourself up. It's the things that happen before. Some of us are impulsive, right? So you have to look at impulsivity. I know I can be impulsive at any given time. That's why it's impulsive, right? Let's go to number two. Number two, do the opposite of what your emotion wants you to do. The opposite. If you decide that you do want to change your emotion, one of the most effective strategies is to do the opposite of your emotional urge. Now, we're talking about emotional urges. We're not talking about that physical urge, right, of you wanting to have sex. That's physical. That ain't got nothing to do with emotions. That's nothing to do with emotions. You're horny. Let's call it what it is, right? That is not an emotion, right? For example, article. Being sad usually leads us to want to stay in bed and withdraw from others. This can be helpful for a few days with a breakup, but eventually it could lead to persistently low mood. Getting out of the house to spend time with others may be the last thing you want to do, but it is likely to make you feel a bit happier. You ever be stuck in the house days at a time, not answering your phone, not on social media, right? Somebody sends you a text message, you call, girl, you need to get out of the house. Yo, dude, let's roll out. Let's go fishing, right? Well, now come on, man. You've been in the house a week. Let's ride out. We're gonna go fishing, man. Yo, it's popping out there, right? We were dropping the rod yesterday and hitting that water, and it was coming up, man. Like, oh yeah, wow. So I'm a fisherman. I love fishing. Already, I have changed the course of my thinking. I've done something different. I've done the opposite. I woke up harder than Chinese arithmetic. But after I got that call and you start talking about fishing, I stopped thinking about you. Jimmy went down and we rolled out. You got to think, you got to be realistic and stop looking at therapeutic tools and stop looking at therapy as something that is going to do harm to you. It's therapeutic. But when you want to stay in that same mindset, when you want to stay in that same condition, that's what you're going to do. But you have to allow others to plant the seed, right? You have to allow others to plant the seed, like Sparkles and Glitter Girl did for me back in 1994, 93, somewhere back in there. You planted that seed. Yeah, planted that seed, right? So you have to do something opposite of that. And you know that works. You've done it before. I'm tired of sitting in this house. Let me call her, see what she's doing today. Let me call him, see what he's doing today. My ace boom coon, roll out and do something else. Get out of here, right? And you come back, you feel refreshed, rejuvenated. Yeah. But then you sit right back down after all that joy, and the tingle comes again. What you gonna do? You turn on the TV, watch some westerns, watch some episodes of Judge Judy, something. Right? You can change that. And then something comes across the screen, reminds you of that person. You're right back at it again. Turn the station. Got the remote right there. Find something else to watch. Find some comedy. Right? Find a horror story. Find something to take your mind away from that situation. Number 3, check your thoughts about the situation. If your thoughts are extreme, it may be helpful to see if they are in line with the facts on the ground. For example, Thoughts like, I'll never find someone who loves me like he did. Or, this pain is unbearable and will never end, are both unlikely to be true. Right? These are things that you're telling yourself. And when you have those kind of thoughts, right? Because every action begins with a thought. There's nothing that you do that doesn't have a thought. Even impulsive people, right, have a conditioning of their thinking that allows them to continue to be impulsive. Once you learn that you're impulsive, accept and embrace the fact that you're impulsive, you can gain control over your impulsivity. Okay? So if you don't understand impulsivity, you need to understand impulsivity because you can control it. You can manage it, right? So don't let the word impulse confuse you because it has to do with errors in thinking, distorted thinking patterns, right? So check your thoughts about the situation. Um, Number 4, write out the pros and cons of getting in contact with your ex. Don't just mentally tally the pros and cons, actually write them down. First, write down as many reasons as you can think of why reaching out could be beneficial, reaching out and also responding to, right? Write it out. Then write out as many reasons as you can think of why reaching out can be harmful. Compare the two lists, considering not only how many items are on it, but how important each item is. Save a copy of the pros and cons list so that you can read it again if the urge to contact your ex comes up later. It's going to come up. It's going to come up. It's going to come up when you least expect it, right? But when you write out this list, you see before you, yeah, we were great together. Yeah, this was great. Yeah, that was great. But then there's the other part of the list that says, yeah, well, but it's for these reasons that we are no longer together. False hope, right? False hope is a factor because you want it to be. You want the two of you to be back together. You want that. Sometimes both of you want that. But then we know that those issues that kept arising, that keep arising over and over and over and over again, are the reasons why you're not together. It's always going to be something that you are going to be faced with as long as you walk this earth. Excuse me. You're going to be faced with that. You don't stop caring, right? You don't stop caring unless it was something that was just that devastating that you just like felt so disrespected um, or violated by. But there are just some things that go on between the two of you. Two good people in a situation that just doesn't work. No matter what it is you do, it just doesn't work. Two good people in a situation that just doesn't work. And that's what you have to begin to look at because this is not a matter of a love. I keep riding on that. I even wrote a song, I Want Love No More. Been married before, right? And I'd say before, right? 4 times. 4 times. And each one of them ended for a reason or reasons, right? That doesn't mean that, you have to be hateful and resentful and angry about any of that. But you need to write that list out. You need to be able to see when you do this, what that creates, not just for you, but what it creates for the other person. For the other person. Whether you're with someone or whether you are alone, whether you're single, You have to write that list out. You have to see, because we can always look at the good things between the two of us, because those good things weren't the reasons why we're not together anymore. It is the negative things. It is the things that were harmful. It is the things that rested upon your spirit and took away your peace. You have to see that. Because if you don't look at that list, you're going back to where it started, because you saw red flags in the beginning about things and you turned a blind eye to it. Are you going to turn a blind eye again? Are you going to find yourself back in that situation again? And when those issues or the issue arise again, you think they're going to be dealt with differently? Not if the person hasn't done any work about it. They may very well change. But what do you do? How do you feel about the fact that they didn't do that while you were together when they should have done it? When they should have done it. This is why you have to weigh everything out, and you have to look at that list constantly. Number 5 on that list: soothe yourself using all 5 of your senses. Using all 5 of your senses, not just the one. Sometimes we seek, to the article, we seek intimacy with others when the idea of comforting our own emotions feels too overwhelming. Right? Now, this is the good thing of the relationship. This is the part of the relationship where we were good. We were good. When something happened, we were there for each other. We did these things, and we made the pain lessen. You necessarily take it away. We lessened the pain of the other person. Right? And we did that for one another. So whenever we're in pain and we're with someone, or we're even by ourselves, and we don't feel that comfort, we miss the comfort from its source. There was a source there. There was and that's usually one of the factors that weigh in on the situation when it comes to the point of ending, because you're sitting there saying, okay, well, right, I do these things. Why aren't you, making the adjustment that you need to make for us to work? Right? If I bring this to you, why aren't you making the change? Because you were only concerned about your own relief. Because you're not looking at your own condition. The article: one of the quickest routes to self-soothing is through your 5 senses. Try doing one activity to soothe yourself using each of the senses. For example, open the blinds to look at the sky outside. This is your sight. You're opening the blinds. You're in the house, blinds closed, drapes drawn. You got the blackouts popping. Nothing's coming in. You open it. You open up the curtains. You open up the blinds. Bam. You're using sight. You're looking around. What meaning does the world have to you? Because if this is a value, there's some significance to you doing this. Right? The next one: put on some low music like jazz, bluegrass, or gospel. What is that? The sense of sound. I like listening to rain. I love the rain. I love oceanscapes. Right? Most of the time for me, that's what works, because I don't want to hear words. And as a person who deals with anxiety and depression, I learned this in therapy about the use of nonsense syllables, because I was, we were talking about ways that I can reduce my anxiety when I feel anxious. And I brought up different things, and each thing that I brought up, the therapist said, okay, if you're listening to music that has words in it, words influence thinking. So what would you listen to? And I talked about the different things I would listen to, and we had conversation about those things. So I learned at that point, well, the music with words was not going to be a good idea. I brought up reading the Quran. She said, okay, what does reading the Quran do for you? Now, I'm still talking about sound, but it's a combination because I listen to the Quran on the iPad. So whether I'm using sight or sound, right, it's still it's unsettling because there are still words, there are still things there that guide the thoughts. And anybody who knows about anxiety knows that, you know, things keep sparking the thoughts and the anxiety increases. So I said, okay. So she recommended nonsense syllables, right? When I like if I'm having insomnia or if I'm really having anxiety. And nonsense syllables are speaking they're not words, but they don't make sense. Like just saying something repeatedly over and over again. Whatever it is, it's distracting the thought, right? Because it doesn't make sense. That's why it's called nonsense syllables. You know, you're just saying something over and over again. It's distracting the thought because you're not thinking about that. Because what you're saying is not structured for you to be thinking about whatever it is that is in your head. That's why it's called the use of nonsense syllables. And again, go to a therapist. We avoid therapy like the plague because we think that somebody's going to tell us the truth. They're going to tell you how bad of a person you are, how sick you are. Well, let me tell you, news flash. To live in this life, and you think you are unscathed about this condition, that's part of the problem. There's too many things that go on in our life, especially for people of color. We endure a whole lot of things. Then you add relationships, intimate relationships and other relationships onto that. You layer all these things on. And if you don't think that you can benefit from, some level of counseling to put yourself at rest, right? Or the use of self-help skill books and content, right? That's part of the problem. Because you haven't accepted the fact that you need to get some guidance. And that religion is not going to help. That's the foundation of living. That's your value system. I get that. But if that's your foundation of living, why are you in the condition that you're in? If only that is going to make a difference. People have allowed themselves and family members to die because of formalized religion. Excuse me, y'all. That means I'm getting dried out, getting close to that time. Yep. So you have to understand your condition and understanding what you need, right? These things are right there for you. You have to seek the solution. The next sense, because we just talked about sight and sound, make yourself some mint tea, like light a fragrant candle, and curl up in a cozy blanket. So make yourself some mint tea. That's taste. I drink peppermint tea often. I use other herbs, to keep myself, cleansed and healthy. And I like raspberry tea. I drink, valerian. I drink different things, and I add flavors to them. I like cranberry juice. So it's things that will soothe you. Like I love chocolate ice cream. I love chocolate. And I can, again, right? Got to be careful, right? You get in one of those spaces where, like, you feeling dis-ease because you want to reach out to that other person, right? You You get that chocolate, get that, like me, I'll get the party bag of M&Ms, and I'll knock off a whole bag. Yeah. Excuse me, in one sitting. I got to be careful with that because if I'm always going to these M&Ms or other, chocolate products, then I'm starting to look at like I'm swelling up. So now obesity is becoming the issue. So now I've layered something else on to the other discomfort, and I made it worse. And I still haven't found resolve with why I keep making this call, why I keep imposing this pain upon myself. And again, suffering is an option, right? So get, something, hey, listen, even if that tastes is some Hennessy, whatever your flavor is, right? Get yourself some passion fruit Ciroc and some raspberry juice or cranberry juice or whatever, right? That's the flavor. That's the taste. Again, being careful with that because you start going into substance misuse, abuse, things of that nature. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful with everything, right? But taste is another sense, and it says using all five senses, not just one, using all five senses, right? And this happens just like that. Go get yourself a glass of cranberry juice, sit outside on the patio, put on some background music, some ambient sounds, look at nature, right? That's four of them. Then the fifth one it has here is light a fragrant candle, which is smell, and curl up in the cozy blanket. Fire up an incense, light a candle, right? Create all that can be created just like that. Like while that thought is running through your head, right? When it starts creeping in, you start creeping too. You start setting up all those things. You know where it is. You put everything in one destination, right? So as I'm coming down the steps, right, I got the incense in hand. I got a candle already on the patio. The refrigerator's right there. Before I go downstairs, grab the bottle, my favorite drink or whatever. Everything happened just like that. While you're thinking, you're moving, you're putting that stuff together because you know it's coming. Because you got to wait. That wave is coming. It's flat, and you see the light rolls, and you see it building, and you feel the inside building. And by the time the wave gets to here, you have already diverted the thought. You've already diverted the thought. Yeah, it takes work, man. But you have to, do the work. You can't just hear it. You can't just listen to what it is that I'm saying on this show here and not put it to use. The last thing it says is practicing these five strategies could prevent you from reopening communication that would lead to more pain. However, even if you do decide to talk to your ex, identifying and regulating your emotions first will likely help you to communicate more effectively, right? And again, this is especially important if you have a child with the other person, because this is where all of the problems happen. And this is why, people wind up in support courts, they wind up in custody battles, they wind up in situations with protection orders, they wind up in situations, excuse me, that are detrimental to the child more than anything, right? Because you haven't worked through all of these things. It takes a balancing act to accomplish these things. You have to be able to sit down and say, hey, uh, we're mother and father of this child. What do we need to do to make it better for our child? Sometimes you have to ask the child, because oftentimes it's the child that can bring a level of sanity to a situation that we have difficulty in finding. We have difficulty in finding. Stop. Just stop. And a matter of fact, if you're in that situation right now, do some work here, because you still got time to fix the relationship between you and the other person and the child. no matter how old the child is, no matter how young the child is, you can do something right now to fix that relationship so that child knows that they have both of you at their disposal. But this is only if you want to. But if you want to hold on to the old stuff, you can. That's your choice. But the other person has to make a decision as to how they want to deal with the situation. And when both of you don't work at it, you find yourself with a child that is torn in half because y'all just don't want to grow up. Because you want to keep taking your toys and going home. Because you don't want to learn how to manage the situation between the two of you, making for a better situation for everybody involved. Hey, listen, I'm sorry I don't have music for y'all today because of the sound issue that I'm having with the speakers, which I've never had. I don't understand what this is all about, but I'm going to figure it out. Best believe that. Make sure that you look out for my new release that'll be coming out March 4th, Bottom Feeders. Sure you've seen the promo. If you haven't, you'll be seeing it again and again and again and again. I'm your host, as always, Shabir Aleem. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Daddy's Right Here Live. I'll see you next Saturday, 9 a.m., God willing, for another episode. Y'all make sure that you're there. Tell a friend. If you missed the show, you can find the show. Yeah. On my Shabir Aleem Educational Station on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. You can find it on Instagram. You can find it on X. You can find it on LinkedIn. You can find it. Put on one of the shows. You think this was a good topic for just you being here today? Put that show on and have some friends over. You want to have a good visit? This is it, right? This is a learning experience for me as well. I just see the subject matter. I say, okay, I like that. I don't even read the article in its entirety. It's something that's resting on my spirit. I just peruse them and bam, that one hit me. Today, this one hit me. Today, this was the one that just hit. This is it. So I'm learning as well with you. This is not just about me giving you information. This is about me getting the same information so I can continue to grow in the areas of my life, so I can improve relationships between myself and others. It's important. It's important. But it's over 200 videos on my Shabir Aleem Educational Station. I know that there's something on there that you and your partner can sit down and watch and have conversations. So, babe, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? It may even force you to make some other decisions about why you're still in the relationship that you're in. Why you're still acting out on some of those less endearing traits of yours and still bringing harm to other people and blaming them. Yeah, the victim position. I'll see y'all next Saturday. Peace.